Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of the newest show on the FHN network, Pop Topic. I'm your host, Tyler Fines, and we've got lots to talk about tonight. I'm going to review the top 5 cop shows you should be binge watching while sitting at home during these shutdown and these trying times. You can follow at Pop Topic Show on Twitter and Instagram, and the FHN network for all your entertainment needs. Pop Topic would also like to welcome to our show guitarist from the famous country band Dry County, also a producer, Randy Solski. Randy, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.
Oh, like I said, huge fan of the band Dry County. I know when I was DJing at the Corral, a lot of people like to request your music. So, like I said, for me, it's an absolute pleasure.
And look at the chaos we've created around the world by upbringing these young youths and exposing everything to them that we had to offer.
Absolutely. I just noticed your hat. What are you wearing there? Who's the team, or is it just the
Leafs? I was born damned. I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I can't help it. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but we squeaked one out against the Habs last night.
Yeah, we played. Listen, it was a good game. I'm a huge Leafs fan, and we also do another show called Off the Puck Hockey, where we interview guests and talk hockey. And we said the Leafs are going to win last night. It was a close one, but we're really happy to see a 5-4 victory, especially over the Habs.
Thanks to Wayne Simmons in large part.
Yeah, you know what? That was a great fight, and you know what? Maybe we'll just bring you on and we can interview and talk hockey for another 15, 20 minutes.
I'd love that. I love hockey since I can't play it right now.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. What have you been doing over the last few months while this pandemic's been going on? And you're a producer. I'm sure you've been getting creative in there.
Yeah, well, goes back to the beginning of the pandemic, I suppose, where when everybody was kind of going a little bit stir crazy, and then some artists came on, like you had this Keith Urban doing a live, and Paul Stanley, I understand, did some live performances from their own homes. I got to thinking, well, maybe I'll reach out to Jeff and just see what he thinks about maybe throwing another album together. We have some material plenty of material in the archives. And he said, yeah, why not? You know, why not jump on board with that? And that's brought us to now. And the album in pre-production is all done already, the new Dry County album. We have to record it for real now, but we're anticipating a release on that. We call it the release time beer patio weather. That's when it will be. So hopefully,
you're referring to Jeff Gallagher.
Jeff Gallagher, correct? Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Jeff Gallagher, my business partner in Dry County, and has been for 20 years. And so we've gotten together and called some of the other mates over the course of the summer, and they were on board. So that brings us to what we're actually up to now.
For sure. So before we get into Dry County, I'd like to discuss a little bit about yourself and, how you discovered your passion for music.
Well, okay. Ever since I was a kid, I guess the thing that got me started in the passion of music, one thing essentially, 2 entities, one thing, Back in Black album and Mutt Lange.
Oh, really?
And,
big AC/DC
100%.
fan. Love AC/DC.
Oh, die hard. Love their latest record, Power Up. Mm-hmm. And but yeah, no, that's when I was my first album I bought was Back in Black, and I was obsessed sonically with it. The songs, of course, because I mean almost every song on that album reached Billboard.
Yes,
which is almost unprecedented.
Yeah, it's very tough to do.
So it'd be hard pressed for anyone. Hardly anybody does albums these days. It's all singles. Singles. So
it's true. It's really tough to make them unless you're Taylor Swift, apparently, who makes like albums every 4 months.
Well, she just writes about her boyfriends and all her exes, right? So there's something to be said about that.
That's awesome. So what did you start playing? Like, what was the first instrument you picked up?
First instrument I picked up was electric guitar, but as a 5 or 6 year old kid at the time, you're really strumming and banging along on it aimlessly. Not much different than I do now, but then I went to drums, and really started to gravitate towards the love for drums, and that stuck with me to this day, as you can see back here in the studio. So drums was my first instrument, and then I figured I'm going to give this guitar thing a crack again, and just kind of played guitar. I picked it up semi-seriously, like most kids do in their high school days, where drums was before that. Drums I was playing in public school. I'd say grade 4-ish on. And but the guitar would be in high school and then I started getting some mates together and we started making a whole lot of noise, which I'm sure drove my folks bananas back in the day. But they let us make noise, as Dave Grohl said. To be a young band, you got to get in that garage and you have to suck. You really do it. You do. You have to at first.
Okay,
because
that's great. That's good advice. Good advice.
Oh, you know what? You have to. Any parents that are out there aspiring to let their kids, they have to let them drive you nuts. Let them get out there and make some noise and have some fun. It's better than some alternative things they could be doing.
That's very true. And grade yourself as a drummer at that young age. Because there's beginner, intermediate. How long did it take for you to really? You'll never really master it, but how long did you go? What, I'm pretty good at this.
I would say I started becoming is what I'm going to qualify as okay on drums. Probably just getting into high school. I would say that's when I started becoming and then when we were in grade 10, 11 is when we started playing bars. We were 17. My first band, not Dry County,
everyone's got fake IDs.
No, we were just a band and nobody ever questioned it. Yeah, we were entertainment. We were the help. We were employed. So no different than the dishwasher, I guess.
Yeah, makes sense.
Even though Corona was good back then.
No, we're in a band. So you were in a band. When were you in your first band? Do you remember the name?
Yes, I do. The very first band that I was ever in was called, the New Horizons.
The New Horizons.
We thought it was good at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Which then sounds like an 80s kind of funk band.
Yeah, well, believe me, there was no funk to us. But it was just a band that actually we did a lot of 50s and 60s covers.
Oh, big fan. Huge fan. We country or like in general?
In general, 50s and 60s. Johnny Be Good and
the Penguins.
Yeah. Any 50s and 60s, Great Balls of Fire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
That stuff. So what got us gigs because the parents loved it. Because here were these late teenagers, doing 50s and 60s, which was almost unheard of. I mean, the teenagers all wanted to do the latest U2 or Iron Maiden or whatever was happening in the late 80s.
Yeah, and it's funny. I actually, during the pandemic, I actually rented a set of electric drums. Because I couldn't actually have a set because it'd be number one, too loud. I live in this little pretty tiny complex. Everyone's going to hear me. So I rented them, and I cannot believe how I fell in love with them. It was a blast and really enjoyed just putting on the headphones, starting, like you said, sucking, just banging away, putting up the YouTube videos, doing all the beginner stuff. And got okay. Like, I mean, it wasn't good, but I could play some songs and it was, and again, I love it. So anybody who's watching this and you want to pick up an instrument, try it. You can go and rent them at any time. I didn't know that. Absolutely. And especially now when people are just hankering for something to do and nobody ever picks up an instrument and instantly starts playing it. And then when you find out, if like you said, you picked up the drums, you started playing, and then you actually start making a little bit of sense of it and you put it down and you feel accomplished. The one song that I played a lot was Billie Jean. It was an easy riff, very simple, and it was funny when I DJ'd at Stampede Corral. One of the other bands that I'm sure you've heard of, the Bareback Riders, that was their outro song, and for me it was very simple, just and it was awesome. I loved it. Oddly enough, Dry County even covered that for a brief spell as well. There you go. Perfect. Yep. Oh, that's fantastic. And like I said, and especially nowadays when you have headphones, a lot of the stuff is electric, like you're not making as much noise so everybody else can hear it. You can keep it confined to yourself. Absolutely. And that's in some points, in some cases, that's great. And you've been in a band for quite some time. If you had to, I know every instrument's different, but if you had to really learn an instrument at a young age, what would you maybe recommend to kids? Piano. And reading music straight away. It's important. Like, can you read music? Can I? Yes. Well, no. Can I? If I'm sitting there, if I have to look at it. Myself too. Yeah, can I? If there are players, if I hire
good players for a project I'm producing, and some sheet music comes up, I know enough to be able to communicate to the players what's going on here if they're good readers. I'm not out in the dark. That being said, there's a new, not new, I shouldn't say that, but the latest charts, I guess we should say, is the Nashville number charts is what everybody goes by now.
Oh, okay. Nashville number charts? Is that what?
No, they all do that. Yeah, it's pretty much, and it's a brilliant system. Well, essentially, without getting too boring for the viewers that aren't musical, essentially, if you take a standard blues progression, which is made up of
so Randy, Dry County is the reason we're here, and the reason I got a hold of you. Tell me a little bit about how Dry County got started.
Back in '98, Jeff and I have been playing in a lot of rock acts. We were involved with a metal act back then, doing the clubs. And as many people know, it's well publicized that he's a cancer survivor. And that was during the time that he was diagnosed. And he had a bit of a bucket list item on his bucket list, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that was, he said he always wanted to maybe try a shake at a country record. And I thought, you know what? We got some stuff that, because we'd always been writing and fooling around with different song ideas. And so, well, there's some here that we might be able to turn into that. So let's give it a go. And at that point, I was still just graduating Fanshawe College in London. And I called some mates that I knew that might be able to help us out with this. And essentially that's brought us to here. That's essentially how it happened.
Crazy. So what was the first song that you guys end up putting together?
Well, there's a few songs that never even got out of the gate. Like if I were to say a song of Jeff's, who's, I believe he's listening right now, says a song like Me and My Harley. But that first one we put together was either You Burn the Memories or What You Got on Tap, I believe, were the first songs that we actually put together and thought this might work as Dry County. Back then, the act had a working slate name slated for Barley and Hops, which later turned into Dry County. It was
crazy. And how do you meet the other? So how did the other guys meet? How did they all come into this then? Just from meetings or just knowing them?
Yeah, pretty much just the loop. Donald on keys, he came in around the same time, and I've been playing with Donald. Was in my very first band, the band like the New Horizons, and then turned into After Hours. So Donald came in. He's a good keyboardist and a hell of a background vocalist, and even a better mate in the band to boot. So I'd known him for a long time. And Uncle Dick, the drummer, Rick Wilson, I played with him in an AC/DC tribute in the mid-90s. And he was good friends with all of us as well. And I said, well, come on in, and if you're something that interests you. And at the time, we never had a guitarist. Now I'm digressing, because even the early days of Dry County, I was actually the drummer. And
okay,
the way the story I always tell is this: I say we couldn't find a guitarist that really fit with us. Keith, I should say, can't forget Kay Silver, our bass player. He was going to jazz school at Mohawk College, and I met him through a mutual friend who was going through there as well.
Hold on. Before you keep going here, did you say jazz school?
Yeah.
Sounds like basket weaving.
Yeah, well, it's how you really cut your chops.
Do you play hockey or football or something like that? Because that's typically how those guys get through school.
No hockey or football. I believe Keith played lacrosse.
Oh, maybe he's there on scholarship.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, Keith. So I'm back on the drums at this time, and we couldn't find a guitarist that really fit in with us. Somebody that we're really happy with. So that's when I called Rick Wilson, said, do you want to drum? And I'll just start playing guitar and just fill the void till we find somebody that then maybe I'll just play rhythm guitar. And I always tell people, well, we never found anybody good looking enough to stay up at the front. So
And it's been the same group of guys since. Is there any changeover at all?
since 2004, it's been the same five guys. Right now, for the latest record, I think Don's had enough. He's done his 20 years, so we may be Donaldless moving forward, but we can still make it work with the with the four of us. Granted, Donald's a huge loss and contributor to the records, but we're confident we can still make it a decent Dry County record.
What's the expected release date?
The expected release date is what we're calling beer patio season. And I'm going to qualify that as April, early May. When the weather starts getting nice, we'll throw this thing out and hopefully be able to kick off a COVID-free summer the right way.
How hard is it to make an album? And the reason I ask that is because, a guy who's on this up and up right now in the U.S., Morgan Wallen, who everyone absolutely loves, who's been making some great country music here the last couple of years, he just put out a 30-song album. So
well,
hear that.
Now's the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But it's just funny because, like you said before, not a lot of people make albums anymore. They make singles and try to bank on those singles with streaming and all that. So for him to come out and make a 30-song album, how long would that take?
Oh, well. Well, there's a lot of contingencies to that. It depends on if he's doing a lot of it himself, the process can be a lot quicker. But if he's relying on other players to come in and then collaborate parts and find parts, that can take a while. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, let's say a song like "Waiting on Hank." Like when you wrote that song, and I obviously want to talk about it because it became pretty famous there for a little bit when it was with the MMA. The gentleman within the MMA. I want to go back on the making of "Waiting on Hank." How was that process? How did you get who wrote it, and how did you guys come up with that concept?
That was a song Jeff does the overwhelming amount of writing out of the gate. Jeff is he's the poet, if you will.
Okay.
He's the poet. And every now and again, and I'll come up with a riff or something like that that'll inspire a song. But for the most part, Jeff is he's where it all starts. He's where it all starts. And "Waiting on Hank" was actually, if my memory serves me correct, was actually slated to be the last track on the album, which turned out to be "Waiting on Hank." And I'll never forget, he gave me a call and he says, "I want to run this by you," like he usually does. He'll just call and play it over the phone and say, "See what you think of this." And when I listened to it, I thought, okay, like it struck me. I thought, yeah, that's going to make the cut. But then the more I heard it, once we got a blueprint of it down, recorded, I'm starting to think there's a little more to this, and it would be a hell of an album opener. We'll do some apocalyptic sort of sounds at the beginning. Now, I know a whole lot more about production these days than what I did back then, but we did the best we could with what we had back then. And "Waiting on Hank" ended up being track one, as you know, and the album title track. And really, it's really our thoughts of the country music industry at the time and where we seen things going. And if you're a Dry County follower, a lot of people know, and a lot of our fans know, we're very outspoken about our thoughts on once pop invades a genre. Once a genre starts taking off, pop will always rear its ugly head into it and then inevitably destroy it, like rock and roll. That's
a really good point. And again, like you said, you've been outspoken about country music and kind of where it's gone now over the past few years, and it's gone exactly like you said, where we are now, outside of maybe a few guys that have kind of kept the traditional factor. But there's always change, and change can be good. But at the same
inevitably,
time,
right?
You like what you like, and you make the music you want to make. And and that "Waiting on Hank" song really pissed off a lot of people. Did you guys receive a lot of backlash? Because you read about it, and there were some people that were pretty pissed about it.
Well, as a producer, I sat down. I remember telling the mates, I can't remember if it was all together or if it was one-on-one, and I have this map of a global map on my studio door. Okay.
Okay.
And I said to the guys, I said, here, I said, I'm going to draw a circle around Nashville. See this right here? See this circle around Nashville? We want to cater to everything outside that circle. So, because I find that, and that's the thing I find with a lot of artists, they try to get right into Nashville and they try to impress everybody in Nashville. And number one, the talent pool in Nashville is second to none on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many, and it's needless to say, it's flooded. There are so many people. There's so many people that could mop the floor talent-wise with any guy in Dry County. They're way better than us. Talent for like better singers, better guitarists, better, possibly better writers, better drummers, et cetera, that are busting tables in Nashville than what we are. But you know what? They went down to Nashville and they got sucked into that, and that's where they forever are, in this void. When I told my guys, balls to whatever Nashville has to say, let's do things our way, because I believe we're going to get a fan base that's going to like this. And we just ran with it.
No, you've developed that fan base, especially here in Southern Ontario and Hamilton, Brantford, kind of where you guys came up. Talk a little bit about the U.S. Did you have any U.S. success? Like, are there places where people know you?
Absolutely. Las Vegas.
Vegas specifically, like a bar, or just Vegas in general? Like,
we were a part of Vegas Bike Week.
Okay.
At Cashman's Field, when Las Vegas had a football team for about 20 minutes there. That football stadium was where Vegas Bike. Yeah. That's exactly. Well, we played it.
That's awesome.
And we've played Savannah, Georgia, Syracuse, New York, and I have to put a shout out to one of all of our in the band's favorite places ever. Well, of course, we played Nashville, but our favorite place ever, Huntsville, Tennessee. We played there.
Why? What's the big draw there?
Well, they used to put on some good festivals, and these people, we went down there. I'll tell you this, Tyler, I have never seen more salt of the earth people down in Huntsville, Tennessee in my life. I've seen as hospitable, but boy, I'm talking to a person down there. They are all genuinely salt of the earth people. And let me tell you, it's God's country down there in the Smoky Mountains. And they would set up a great big stage where we played at Trail's End. Mm-hmm. And the stage would be right in front of a big 200-foot mountain bluff. And they'd put backing lights and light up the mountain bluff for the concert at night, which was the backdrop for the stage. Oh, what a view. What a show.
What's the biggest crowd you ever played for?
Oh, well,
especially venue.
Okay. It would be one that comes to mind would be Port Dover, Friday the 13th.
Ooh, that's always a doozy.
And we were playing in the afternoon. Like, we headlined the last few of them when we were playing. Mm-hmm. But there was one particular one in an afternoon, and I remember that our stage was right in front of the Callahans, and we faced up that hill. And not only was our front just packed with people, but everywhere you seen on the streets was people. For as far as you could see, walking up the road, up that hill, like coming to and forth and coming down Main Street. It was just a sea of people everywhere you could see. And I think they might, and the way I remember it, the promoter was saying that everybody else was shut down for a brief window of time. And we were the only act on at that time in all of Dover for like a window of about a half hour. So I'll tell you, that would be one of them.
That's awesome.
That would be one of them. How many people?
Shout out to 20. Adam Stiles and Mike Walker, my co-hosts on OTP on Off the Puck. Their boys are from Dover. We've had a few guests on from the Port Dover area, so especially some of the hockey guys. But
nice.
Yeah. So when you went down to Nashville, I mean, did you guys have big dreams like that? You went and you said you did the Nashville thing. Tell us
absolutely.
Tell me a bit about that experience, because everyone always dreams of going.
Yeah. Well, Nashville, unbelievable city. Unbelievable city.
I love it too.
If you're a tourist, it's great. If you're a tourist, you're going to get second, like world-class entertainment at any given bar you walk into on Broadway. Uh, there are buskers with amazing talent on Broadway, you know. So when we went down there, of course, we fell into the this could be our chance. This is it. Found out later to realize that, you know what, we're just band number 4 on the scene of the bar's billing, because what they do is they can give you an email saying, hey, would you like an opportunity to play our bar? And people like Dry County or any other aspiring artist thinks this could be my shot. Just realizing that, you know what, we're band 5 of a 7 bar bill, you know.
Yeah.
So we learned pretty quick that
How long were you down there for?
We were down there, I believe, for 5 days. We did oh gee,
Do you remember the bars you
3
did?
or 4 shows. So we did some shows. We did one at the best show was at the Blues Brew.
Yep,
And
absolutely. Just a little bit off
that
the
was,
strip. Take a little left there, yeah.
yeah. Hootie and the Blowfish was playing the weekend after we were, so I thought, oh
Wow.
geez, this is okay stage to be on.
Yeah,
What
I'd
business
say.
do we have here?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, have you met anybody down in the music industry and said, like, you know, you may have something, you may not, or more importantly, did you get any honest feedback from somebody that's actually like really in the music industry and said, boys, this might not be for you?
Yeah, you get all that. Yeah, we've pretty much been turned down by every place that we tried to chase. And you know, for one reason or another, you know.
So was Garth Brooks, right?
Absolutely. Oh, I know it's the same story all over the place. But I mean, especially with us, we were abrasive, outspoken. We weren't going to change it because we knew we had. And when I say outspoken, I mean we weren't like being brash idiots or anything like that. But we had a thought, and we thought, you know what, we're going to do our music our way, and you're not going to tell us that it's not going to sell. Because just because it doesn't sell in your pool of fish doesn't mean it's not going to sell to our pool of fish.
It's true.
You know, it's a pretty big world. So who is some guy that says, no, you won't sell? I know. Well, I'll tell you, there must be an awful lot of record labels right now that are wishing they hadn't missed the Dry County boat.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you, and especially nowadays when you're listening to country radio, and you know, there's so many artists that come out, but they drop one song and then they fall off, right? You know, you got a guy like Luke Combs who's been able to kind of withstand it. He's done pretty well, Morgan Wallen and things like that, but you don't hear of any, you know, really popular Canadian country artists right now. You know,
No,
there's not really one that's been able to kind of withstand that or make that next step to stardom, at least in the U.S.
No, and there's a reason for it, because it's just how the Canadian business works, and that's another interview all on its own.
In a nutshell, can you give me the Coles version if you like? If you had to break it down in a sentences, why?
Well, essentially, once you're, a lot of it is a lot of the money these artists are getting, which we're proud to say we never ever took, was factor grants.
Okay.
And they would get factor grants, and factor grants in some way constrict you to staying in Canada, because the money comes from Canada. They want you to make it in Canada. They want you to become tax paying Canadians, you know, so you kind of get locked into that. And very, very, very few artists I know, I'm not saying all, but very, very few, unless you're Blue Rodeo and the Tragically Hip, can really sustain just in Canada.
It's true. It is true. It is really tough to be a truly Canadian band and to speak to everybody across Canada, and especially in the country genre, where again, you know, country is popular, but it's not pop. It's right. It's not always what's the most popular, right? It kind of has that rotation. Like every 5 to 10 years, all of a sudden a country song is really, really popular. They take off for 4 years, and then it kind of rotates again. And I felt that as a DJ too, with country music, you always get like all of a sudden Luke Bryan was really popular, and then country was gone again. And it's just kind of the way it goes.
Yep. We played with Luke Bryan, I believe, at Downsview Park in Toronto when we opened for Jason Aldean.
And what was that experience like for you guys? Did you end up meeting him? Did you speak with him?
He was back there. We kind of always kept, whenever we did festivals, we more or less just kept to ourselves, because we didn't want to be that try hard band or that always bothered the big guy. you
Good
know.
point. Yep.
We just kind of we would just like, you know, if somebody was walking by, like we played one time with Trace Atkins in Montgomery Gentry.
Oh, I'm sure that would have been fun.
Fantastic. And Trace Atkins, he was walking by and just, I was out having a beer on my picnic table and he just friendly wave, how you doing? He says, good. How about yourself? You know, and just kind of kept it at that and didn't want to be that nuisance.
Who was the best guy you've ever played with or seen? Mainstream. Actually, no. Who's the best guy you ever played with? Doesn't even need to be a big name, just a musician, you know, stage presence, whatever you want to call it.
Oh boy, you know, this is where if Jeff was here right now, he'd be able, because I'll tell you this, it would definitely be one of the American artists because they were always would take time and come over and chat. I mean, a lot of the Canadian guys were fine too, but the American artists that were super big, they really, for a lot of what our experience was, they really didn't take anything for granted, and they never really belittled you. At least never belittled us. You know, they didn't say, well, you guys are here. And we've had some experience like that with some of the Canadian ones. And I thought, well, as soon as we're done this show, you can go back to work at Home Depot and we'll continue making records, you know. But the American, I'm trying to think, there's been a few good ones.
Yeah.
There's been a few.
There's been a couple.
I can tell you some Canadian guys that are really, really good. Jay McCoy and the Roadhammers, solid guys. They were always great with us. Clayton, Chris, and Jay. Every time we play with them guys, they're always more than happy to come over, say hi, come in our trailer.
Guys like Johnny Reed and George Canyon and Paul Brandt and all those guys. Like I'm like a big Canadian country music fan, and you know, I'm just hoping that there's another guy that comes up and kind of takes the step and becomes the Bieber of country in Canada or in the U.S. I know it's hard, but you know, there's so many successful R&B artists that are at the top of the charts right now. Top 5 guys, 3 of them are Canadian. Drake,
yeah,
and The Weeknd. Right?
Yeah, 100%. I didn't know The Weeknd was Canadian.
Weeknd's Canadian. Another Scarborough.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, right.
Really?
So there's 3 guys right there that are on their way up. Nav's another one who's on his way up. There's plenty of guys that are making really good money and obviously have done extremely well in the music industry coming from Canada. But again, like you said, it's on the pop side, and you know, I really would like to see the country side. You know, send another artist up there that can take the top of the charts.
Yeah, and we have them here. We have them. I mean, there's no shortage of talent around here.
What about is there a new guy maybe out there that you like, that you've maybe seen once or two, maybe a younger guy or someone that's coming up? I don't know. It's kind of tough. To me, I can't name anybody right now. I'd love to.
I've been out, like Dry County's we haven't been active for almost 3 years. So
2018,
and then was
right?
COVID.
I think that's when your last tweet was. I just followed you on Twitter and you haven't tweeted since then. So it's gotta be.
No, I don't do a lot of Twitter. I guess I probably should, but I don't do a whole lot of that. But again, I should be a lot more active on it. But yeah, we haven't been active. So and again, in our past, we've had some acts that have opened for us that we've thought, geez, after these, we're going to go on and ruin the show after these guys are done, you know, like we're going to go out and spoil it for everybody.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of cover acts, and you know, like a Shania Lynn Scott, who is the cover for Shania. She's Canadian.
Oh yeah, Shania. Right? I've had her in the studio.
Shania's fantastic, right? Like that's a person there you'd like to see, you know, maybe make a next step. But I mean, when you're doing the cover and you're behind Shania, it's tough, right? It's tough to do it yourself.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure. And you know, that's the one thing that we can pride ourselves in, is that we did take it with original music, and we really did it our way.
You know? Have you got a name for the new album coming out yet, or no?
I do. Well, I should say,
if it's locked away, you can say, yeah, you don't have to drop it here. But if you've
you know what, I think we could. I think we can. I think Jeff would approve that we can let it go. I think the name is it's a really cool name. It's the title track of the album. And the song is called, here it is, drum roll. The album will be called Baptism or Shine.
Ooh, I like that. Baptism.
Dry County's back.
Gotta get some t-shirts, man.
Yeah.
Baptism
and the whole premise, the whole song idea, is a fella who essentially's come to a crossroads, and basically he's asking whose story's better, you know, gods or Satan's, and what's he doing? Baptism or shine? And that's the premise of he's come
Well,
to a crossroad, and he's got to make a decision.
well, I'll be looking forward to actually buying it. So when it comes out, I'm going to spend money on the guys I want to spend money on, and Dry County's a band that I want to spend money on and make sure that you guys are earning for the time you guys put in the music you've put out. It's fantastic. And I just before I let you go, I got a couple more questions. The first one
Go
is
ahead.
about the MMA when the song was actually picked up. How did that process work? Like when did all of a sudden Heath Herring get a hold of you, say I want this as my headlining song?
Okay, the Coles Notes version is we had a manager at the time that says, I think you guys that would be your niche. So anyway, to make a long story short, he cold called Dana White, somehow broke through the barriers, got a number, cold called Dana White. And it just so happened that this is when Brock Lesnar was in, and Brock Lesnar was supposed to be fighting a different fighter. And Heath Herring was in negotiating the contract to fight Heath Herring at the time. And when he called, it turns out that Heath is like Dry County, Dana White's like Dry County. And Heath Herring says, Dry County, like waiting on, I work out to those guys every day.
Crazy. Wow.
So you want to talk
All
about right place, right time. So, and to this day, we stay in touch with Heath. Yeah. Jeff does, I know.
Do you remember watching? I'm sure you were watching when all of a sudden you see him coming out to the song.
Oh, it was surreal. It was surreal. Like, and that's when that right there is when our little world, our Dry County little world, the fans and the community started taking us seriously. And that's when we were selling out clubs. When Dry County went on the board, you had a full house.
Yep. Oh, I remember the craze. I really do remember the craze when that all went down, and same, like I said, DJing and getting those recommendations. Who are these guys? And obviously, I didn't know at the time, and then you hear you, and I'm like, oh, yep, give me everything they got. Everything they got's going on the computer or going wherever.
And one further point to that, I'll never forget. I got to give a shout out to a fellow that really helped us, Bill Hart. I had a meeting with us he was at the time a DJ on Kicks 106. And he says, hey guys, can I have a quick lunch meeting with you? And here I thought, okay, this is where we get shown the door. Like, hey guys, can you please stop asking if, submitting songs, we can't play you, this, that, and everything else. And that. He's going to be nice about it at least. So we go to this meeting and he says to us, Keith, myself, and Jeff were there. And Bill says, well, guys, he says, I got to tell you, he says, we get more requests for Dry County, honest requests, than Keith Urban, Shania Twain, and he just listed them all off. He says, so the radio station really has no option but to pick you guys up.
Well, you never know.
Otherwise, their sponsors will throw a fit.
Next album might be it, right? Like, you never know. Like if you're happy with the quality and the music that you're making, you never know. Especially like you said, it's different, it's edgy, and it might be the right time for it.
And that's just, you never know. Exactly. And you're right. You don't know. I mean, we're not doing this album to chase. We're doing this album just to throw it out there. It's a tough time with COVID right now. It gives us something to do. And I didn't really want to, I don't think any of us really wanted to go out with Hell or High Water. It was a little more dark in content lyrically. And this album, really, I feel as a producer, I've tried to make this album kind of have a little feel of all four albums prior.
And how many tracks are you producing on this album?
We're going for 11. We've always done 11.
11. Oh, okay. That's cool. That's awesome. So it's always just been 11.
11
yep. Songs.
No rhyme, no reason, just 11.
That's the number.
Yeah. I like I said, I'm trying to do, we are trying to do an album, a collective listen from start to finish. We try to avoid everybody has them songs that they're gonna skip, but we're trying to
fillers, right? You got to make the record company happy. So fill the songs and make us $1 million with two of the best songs you make.
Oh geez, I wish I had a piece of everything you just said there.
Well,
we're $1 million shy of being millionaires, but you know what? We love doing it, and we love our fans.
And you know what? And the fans love you, and I love you, and I can't thank you enough for joining the Pop Topic show. Like I said, it's our second show ever, and I couldn't ask for a better guest. And the Dry County album is going to be out in April or May. So make sure you guys are picking it up. It's going to be out there. We will announce it on Pop Topic, and maybe we'll have the band back on when the album releases, and we'll talk about it again. And let's pump the crap out of it over the summertime. People are going to need drinking.
Tyler, what's that?
People are going to need drinking music. I know I will.
And we can help them out with that.
Well, listen, again, thanks again for coming on. I'd like to thank our guest, Randy Solski, for joining us today on Pop Topic. You can contact Randy on his website at rsssounds.com. Thanks again, Randy, for coming on the show, and best of luck with your album drop and Dry County.
Pleasure.
Randy
Thank you.
Solski, everybody. Thanks for coming on.
Everybody be safe.